Hi, I'm John Wolpert with the Baseline Protocol, and we're here with Evan McMullen and Italo Borsanto. And they are two of the judges for what we call the Phonebook Challenge for the Baseline Protocol Hackathon 2020. And they're going to tell you about what you need to know to get started, where the resources are to make sure that you're successful, and where in the repo you can find the materials and the locations to do your work. Italo, Evan, welcome. Tell us about what you're going to be judging.
Thank you so much for having us, John. So first, I want to invite everyone listening to join us at Hackathon 2020-Phonebook on the Baseline Slack. The high-level problem that we will be solving, or the high-level problem that we're tackling together, is that companies baselining need to find each other and need to make sure that they are indeed the companies that they think these counterparties are. Is the Coca-Cola really Coca-Cola? So we as a team are already working on a solution for that, that we refer to as a directory or a phone book, but we have a problem that we need your help to solve inside of that. We need your help testing out how to demonstrate this phone book in an actual implementation. So Italo is going to describe where you can find some awesome resources to support your approach.
Yeah, basically the solution that you need to build will be based in two main elements. One is the baseline reference implementation, the first baseline reference implementation that is known as BRI1. It's available in the baseline repo. I'll share my screen, and so in the challenge description, you see all these links. One of them is for the BR1 repo, and basically it's here inside the baseline. You have the examples, BRI1, BRI1.
And that's the baseline. That's the first implementation of the core baseline protocol interfaces. The interfaces are generic. The BRI is a very opinionated way of implementing those interfaces, right?
Yes. And it's ready to run. So the first thing I suggest everybody that joins this challenge is simply run this example, and you see the communication being established between Alice and Bob. In this case, okay, using a net server. So all the Dockers, all the configurations are there. And one important point here is that the work group that is built in this example, it's built using GWT invitations, okay? It's something that happens in the Nets implementation. It's where you describe
and Nets, for people that don't know, is the messaging protocol that's in BRI1. Could be AMQP, could be any other messaging protocol that's compliant with the standard, right? But this one happens to use NATS.
Exactly. Thank you, John. And so basically what you do to build the workflow is to build this work group, okay? And what we want in this challenge is to replace the way this work group is built. Not by replacing the GWT barrier tokens. You can use the NET server and the GWT barrier tokens, but there are attributes that you need in order to create this GWT barrier token. You will retrieve from a DID, okay? So DID is a decentralized identifier. We explain everything here in the description of the challenge.
So Italo, go more into that. So, I mean, really what we were discussing before the call was that, the phone book is a little misleading, right? That we're not building a phone book here. Your team is working on a particular application of discovery and, for baselining companies. But the general, what needs to happen for this to take the protocol to the next level is to develop and implement the ability to create a work group that has multiple companies that are working together in a baseline framework. You need to be able to build the set of companies in the work group. And in the way we've done it up until now is with an org registry. And you're suggesting that the next step is to use the DID standard to build that work group without an org registry. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So take us through. So that's what the challenge is, to implement a did approach to building a work group in Baseline.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yeah. And just with the addition of this well-known did configuration specification, that is something that links to the domain. Yeah. Basically. So you're not
flip
only
us over
using
to so what looks different in this approach? So when somebody's done, when somebody's achieved the challenge, today we have the Baseline Protocol repo. It looks like X, and when we've accepted the challenge submission, it'll look different. What does it look like today? Where so for example, there's the org registry components in the repo.
Yeah.
Are those going to change? Are we going to ignore them? Are we going to add something different? What is the contestant going to do in there?
Today, in the reference implementation that we have, we use the org registry to store the data, the attributes that we need to establish communication between the parties. In that case, this org registry, in that case, I mean the BRI one, it contains the net endpoint and some public keys, right? After this challenge happening, what we expect to have is to have that replaced by a solution where you will retrieve, the only thing you need to know about the counterparties are their domains. So if you have the website of each participant, you will be able to retrieve the well-known did configuration file that stores the information to establish connections using the attributes in the DID. So basically, this DID is trustable because all the information in this file will be signed by the same DID. And you have the same attributes that were stored previously in the org registry will be retrieved from this DID document. Okay?
So you're just going to ignore the library in the repo that has the org registry and implement a different library that will go out to a compliant party's website, pull the DID file that should be as you were explaining to me, the DID standard, which the link is right there in the issue for those who haven't played with DIDs before. There's a file you're going to put, the compliant party is going to put that file into their website in a well-known place, and that all DID implementations employ, and then you're going to read those the attributes of that DID from there, right? So instead of having an org registry set up on chain, you just have to add a file to your website. So effectively, the picture I'm getting, Italo and Evan, if you could confirm, is this is simply the $2,000 challenge here is for implementing any work group you'd like, doing anything you'd like it to do, using this method, which involves going out to a website, grabbing the DID file, and constructing the work group from that, as opposed to on-chain org registry. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so that's a pretty straightforward piece of work.
Yes. Yes.
So how would I start? Where in the code base are we going to have? Do we have a file in the repo that gives somebody the DID file structure that they have to employ? And they're going to have to set up a couple websites to do this, right? To demonstrate it.
Yes, actually, in the BRI one example, you already have the Docker configurations to build the each corporation here. In the case, Alice and Bob. So what you need to do is only to use the same Dockers that you have here defined in the reference implementation, and just add something on top of that to add this file, okay? Just explain a bit better how is the process to onboard a company to this baseline phonebook solution. You just need to create a DID for your company. If you don't have that one, you need to generate the well-known DID configuration file, store that well-known DID configuration file, and we don't have a phonebook UI yet, but then you would just register your domain in this phonebook. This part is optional and not implemented right now, but this is how to have your company ready to do that, right?
Yeah.
So
and
in your
the number 4,
implementation,
you don't really need to have, right? In that this,
yeah,
the work group will work even if there isn't, if you don't do that last step and add it to this,
exactly.
universal org registry.
Yes, yes, exactly. And what you will do is to come here in the BRI1 and in these Alice and Bob instances, you will create this DID, store this DID in the well-known URL, and then you will retrieve the information from each other's endpoint communications through this DID configuration and not through the org registry like it was being done previously, okay? So that's the main difference. And basically what you need to know is to how to run this BRI1. And in order to generate the DID configuration file and create DIDs for your company, in this case, in this example for Alice and Bob, we are talking, you can use the DAF plugin.
What does DAF mean for those who don't know?
Oh, sorry. DAF is the Decentralized Agent Framework, okay? It's a library that gives you the ability and most of the services you need to manage your DIDs. So it can create new DIDs, sign VCs. VCs are verifiable credentials, attestations that are signed by this identity, this decentralized identifier. So it's a framework that implements most of the things that you need in a decentralized identity world. So you won't need to spend time understanding. It's good to know what DIDs are, but you don't need to spend time writing code to have that working, okay? That's what I want to make clear here. Just by using these plugins and the DAF implementation, you will be able to generate your DIDs and check the DID, to generate the DID configuration file and check a DID configuration from any specific domain, okay? And all the instructions are here.
Real quick, sorry, Isabel. DAF is an experimental library, and we are excited to evolve it to support the Baseline community and would love to receive any feedback. So know that it's not necessarily a community adopted standard. This is an experimental library that we are developing to make this process easier.
So this is a resource that you can use. You could implement it any way you like, but this is one way that you can speed your work up is by using this particular library.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have
that leads. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, we have here instructions on how to generate DIDs and how to check to generate the well-known DID configuration. So most of the things are ready. You just need to use the pieces. And I think that the most important thing in this challenge is that we are not defining how the attributes for the communication will be stored. So if you want to make that in a way that it's not totally dependent on the Nets implementation from the BRI1, it would be great. Yeah, feel free to propose your solution in this on how to store these attributes.
Thanks, Italo. That I think makes things pretty clear. So to summarize, the task is to construct a work group using the Baseline Protocol framework, and an Alice and Bob, if you will, and to establish Alice and Bob's connection in the workflow using DIDs instead of a manually implemented work group library that we have already in there called the org registry. So we're moving on from org registry to something a little bit more extensible, a little more standards based. And we want to demonstrate that and see where the problems are. Italo, one last question. Where do you see the hard work in this challenge likely coming from? Where would, if you were embarking on this challenge yourself, what, and knowing what you know, where's the hard work going to come from? Where is the new thinking and the innovation going to have to be applied?
Yeah, I believe that the first thing is this, because we are talking here about a phone book, but it doesn't exist. So it's interesting because actually you will be able to discover other parties only by using their domain. And actually we are talking here about the base of the solution for a phone book. We will have a phone book and a UI later, but what you're using here is the basics. You know, by the domain of the participants, how to get the attributes to communicate with them through these well-known configuration files.
Do you mean the hard part will be finding the file, or
no, you will need to in the BRI one, you need to create this configuration before running the workflow itself. So you need to create this DID configuration file in one part in the website of one participant and in the other participant, and then they will discover themselves through the domain. So basically in the BRI one, you have Dockers. So you will need to understand how you will do that using the Docker configuration that is there. So I'm talking here about the technical challenge that you have. And later, this way of retrieving from the DID document, the ID document, the attributes to establish the communication. So basically, this is the thing that I think you will spend more time.
All right. Thanks a lot, Italo. And anybody that has further questions can find Italo and team and Evan and the other folks that are supporting this. Kyle Thomas, I think, is getting involved, and others on the Slack, which you can get invited into from baseline-protocol.org. And we hope to see you there. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.